Am I the only one that sees that there's this massive problem here? My question is, does anyone see a problem? This is crazy. Nobody trusts a cop who breaks the law. Nobody trusts a mechanic whose car is always breaking down after he works on it. Nobody trusts a financial advisor who's broke and is homeless. Wow, maybe we should talk about this. This is the Nice Veins Bro podcast, the #1 podcast for nurses who want to live that next level life. I am Nene Pablo, host of this podcast, registered nurse, and creator of Nice Veins Bro. I want to give you a statistic that I hope blows your mind as it did mine. I want this to sink in. According to the American Nurses Association, the ANA, I'm going to quote this. It says, quote, "For nearly every indicator, the health of America's nurses is worse than that of every American. Nurses are more likely to be overweight, have higher levels of stress, get less than the recommended hours of sleep," end quote. This is from a study they did from October 2013 to October 2016. Wow. Today's episode is going to be about how real nurses practice what they preach. This episode is part of a 5-part series on what it takes to be a real nurse. I put a list together and I decided to make separate episodes on them. It's 5 things that I, based on my opinion, of values and characteristics that real nurses ought to have. And that is respect the profession, put in the work, stay humble, practice what you preach, which is this episode, and then love life and love people. I have waited for this moment because if I'm going to be honest with you, I am so passionate about this topic that pretty much the reason why I decided to do this whole thing, the whole thing about the business, Nice Veins Bro, talking about how living the next level life, talking about how inspiring other nurses, reclaiming your calling, all this stuff that I'm doing with Nice Veins Bro is hanging on this, is based on this, because I had this passion when I started seeing this. Healthcare is broken. But even more importantly, in my opinion, you see that the people who are working in healthcare, nurses themselves, not just nurses, but other healthcare professionals who are working in this industry, are broken themselves. And so how are you going to fix a broken healthcare system with broken people themselves? Let's start with us, okay? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Michael Jackson. I don't know if I should add that into the mix. I knew from the get-go that I wanted to make a podcast when I first started all this that was going to be based on practicing what we preach. Practicing what we preach. We're going to talk about what the problem is. We're going to talk about why it's happening and then how to fix it. So before that, I want to share another statistic that is just mind-boggling, okay? And although this next statistics I'm going to share was based actually in 2016, and this is a much smaller research study, but it's still, I think it speaks volumes. It says, quote, "A 2016 collaborative study completed by 3 researchers at the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana," that's a funny place to live, okay, "and Lock Haven University in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, sought to identify the impact of stress and subsequent coping mechanisms on the overall health of hospital-based nurses. Pay attention to this. It says here 92% of nurses reported moderate to very high stress levels. That's not a surprise, but 92, come on. 92% hospital setting. 78% slept fewer than 8 hours per night. 69% did not exercise. 69% did not exercise regularly. 63% ate less than 5 daily servings of fruits and vegetables. Many of the nurses surveyed rated their health as good, which the researchers believed is not accurately reflective of their health behaviors and lifestyle. I don't know about you, but is that just at least mildly embarrassing? Come on. That is unbelievable to me. I mean, I knew this, but when I started doing some of the research and some of the things that I found out there, to be able to say, going back to that first thing that I quoted, nearly in every indicator besides smoking, okay, the health of America's nurses is worse. Like, nurses are more likely to be fat and overweight or have a much higher level of stress, much less sleep than just the average American. That is not okay. That is not okay, especially when you look at the health risks that come from being overweight and not exercising regularly and not eating healthily. Like, I honestly, this is unbelievable and, in my opinion, unacceptable. He's talking about how we are literally nursing people back to health and we are the sickest people out there. More on this coming up. Don't go anywhere. Let go. No, 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 no. Hola, mi gente. Everybody has a crazy nursing story to tell. If you want to share yours with the world, send it to me. I'll feature it here on the podcast and you can get my take on it. You can also ask me questions. Love questions. Remember, HIPAA rules do apply when you're telling your story, of course, and I will make sure you remain anonymous. I don't know what you're waiting for. Send me a message, niceveinsbro.com/podcast. That's again, niceveinsbro.com/podcast. Looking forward to it. So what is the problem? Well, I think the problem is pretty obvious. I think the problem is that nurses are not doing well. Nurses are not healthy. Nurses are struggle busing, to say it probably in the nicest way, which low-key makes me feel really, really sad because deep down I have like this dream. I've always thought this too, since I graduated, since I was going through nursing school. Wouldn't it be amazing if you went into a hospital and like the people who are there to help you get better, the people who are at clinics, not just hospitals, but just the people who go into healthcare, nurses, doctors, PTs, dietitians, wouldn't it be amazing that you walk in to any of these places where these people are and you start noticing these are the healthiest, most vibrant, most full of life people you've met? It would be like this healthy competition between the dietitians, doctors, and dentists and all these people. You know, who's the healthiest? It would be amazing to be able to see that the people in healthcare are practicing what they preach. They are the healthiest people out there. It would not only be amazing for the people in healthcare, but it would also be super inspirational for the people we take care of to say, look, I can do this. If these people are doing it, I can do this as well. Instead, you have like a bunch of people who are kind of feeding into the system who it's a bunch of unhealthy people taking care of a bunch of unhealthy people. Unfortunately, that is the very reality in hospitals and clinics across the United States. And I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but am I the only one that sees that there's this massive problem here? My question is, does anyone see a problem here? This is crazy. Nobody trusts a cop who breaks the law. Nobody trusts a mechanic whose car is always breaking down after he works on it. Nobody trusts a financial advisor who's broke and is homeless. That's insane. It's insanity to trust people like this. So why would someone trust their very lives or their loved ones and put their life into the hands of someone who's careless with their own? I'm not calling for perfection, but what I am saying is that we have a darn high expectation for people in other professions. We want every cop to be, this perfect peacemaker, lawful citizen of the United States. We get upset when accountants get the numbers wrong. We get upset when people don't get our orders right. When we get upset when freaking baristas don't get our coffee correctly. So there's an expectation for people who know what they're doing to live out what they preach. And I don't blame, that's the same problem we have in the religious sector. You have so many people who say, these Christian people, talk about loving other people, and sometimes they're the most hateful people out there. And I don't blame people who look at, the Christian world and say those things, because it's true. A lot of Christians don't live out what they preach. And this is the same issue we see in the medical field. Some of those most unhealthy people are the ones going out there and educating others on how to live healthy lifestyles. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. This is critical for us to care about what kind of life we lead. Real nurses practice what they preach. Again, I am not saying that we have to be the most athletic people in the world. But what I am saying is that we have to be mindful about the lifestyle that we lead, because for us to be able to care for others, we have to go through it ourselves. For us to be able to be effective in educating other people to make really hard decisions sometimes in their life, really hard, good decisions in their life to change their lifestyle. And if we haven't walked through those steps, how on earth are we expecting other people to respect us, to trust us, and to do anything that we suggest for them, the lifestyle changes that we want them to make? It's out of this world. I think it's out of control. I think this is a major, major problem in the healthcare industry. People are not healthy, and then they tell people how to be healthy. I'm sorry, but no, not acceptable. If you don't practice what you preach, how on earth are you going to expect the hospital executives or the hospital system to live up to their mission statement? We talk about how people who are at the top in these systems, don't live up to their mission statement. Oh, you don't care about people, and yet your mission statement says this, that, and the other. Yeah, same thing on us, buddy. Same thing on us. Our very own actions as nurses says a lot about who we are and our character. Make sure your actions match your words. Let's take a close look at ourselves, please. I'm talking specifically to those of us who are making poor lifestyle choices. I'm not talking to people who have, chronic illnesses because it's something, congenital diseases and all of that, who are born with it. I'm talking specifically about people who are making poor lifestyle health choices and are then turning around and saying, do what I say, not what I do. Oh, come on. My very first clinical in nursing school, okay, listen to this. I went and was following this nurse at a med-surg unit, and I could not believe my eyes. She had a 1-liter bottle of Pepsi at the nurse's station. A 1-liter bottle of Pepsi. I kid you not. This, the ones that you take to birthday parties for 20 people are showing up to drink at. She was drinking this just on her own, and she was laughing about it, saying that, I can't get through my shift unless I have this Pepsi bottle. I'm like, wow, maybe we should talk about this. What are we doing? What are we doing? You can't tell people what to do when you turn around and sit and chart with a 1-liter friggin', do you know how much sugar is in that? Every shift, man, I gotta have one of these every shift to keep myself awake. Oh my goodness. And I saw the same thing after I started working on my first nursing job too. I saw this one chick who would bring 2 of the 16-ounce, Coke, I think it was Dr. Pepper, who was drinking that, and she would have to get. And then some people can't make it through a shift, without multiple Monsters or multiple energy drinks. I'm like, guys, y'all, I'm not perfect. I know that it sounds like I'm being judgmental. All I'm doing is saying, look, let's stop for a second, just one moment. Let's stop, all of us, including myself, me. Let's ask, are we being hypocrites? Are we being hypocrites? I would like to suggest to you that we are. We are being hypocrites if we lead a lifestyle that is unhealthy for us. That, to me, is a problem. That is the problem when it comes to the health and wellness of lots of nurses out there today. Okay, so why is this happening? Why are nurses unhealthy? Why are they not well and living vibrantly? And I'm making a blanket statement here, obviously, but there is a problem and we have to address it. And so why is it happening? And so instead of me focusing, because I'm all about personal responsibility, that's me. Hi, I'm the guy who's going to tell you take personal responsibility, try to avoid that victim mentality. And so instead of us looking outside of who we are for, reasons for our situation, there is stress in our jobs. There is a problem and brokenness in the system that we work in. Yes, I want to acknowledge that because it's very important. But I'm going to address it on what we can do and what problems we can approach with positivity. Okay, personal responsibility. That's who I am. That's what we're about. So why is this happening? I want to suggest 3 things. Number 1, we are not being intentional. Number 2, we are not being consistent. Number 3, we are not seeking help. These 3 things. We're not being intentional, we're not being consistent, we're not seeking help. Some of us are too proud to admit that we play the main role in our life, and decisions that we make, they have consequences and they have benefits. We are in the driver's seat. And so, yes, there are outside factors. Not going to deny it. But I don't want to fall. I think it's very problematic when we fall into the victim mentality where, we start to look around and see who we can blame. So that's why I'm approaching it in this way. We are not being intentional. We are not being consistent. We are not seeking help. And I think those are probably the major problems for a lot of the nurses. Not all of them, but a lot of the nurses who are unhealthy in their practice. They're not healthy in their lives. Intentionality has to do with being purposeful about reviewing the decisions that you have made, or being intentional about setting yourself up for success. And I don't think enough of us are doing that. A lot of us are just coping very, very irresponsibly. And so that's why we make very poor decisions. There's no intentionality. It's just go to work, go home, eat whatever I want, not being intentional about the habits that I'm forming. And so because we're not being intentional, that's why these things come up. And then, 5 years down the road, I'm super unhealthy with, comorbidities and in the hospital admitted because I had a stroke. So because we are not being intentional, we end up in a place we don't want to be. So that's the first one. We've got to be intentional. The second one is we are not being consistent. That's the reason why this is happening. We are not being consistent. So maybe we do know that, we need to make some lifestyle choices. We want to be intentional. We do intentional things, but then we're not consistent about it. Consistency is the most important factor in character building. Anyone can do a good thing. Anyone can do, muster up the motivation to make a great decision. But then the next day, you screw it over. The inconsistency there, although you were intentional in certain things, you're just not consistent about it. You make goals and you want to go to the gym and you have, 3 really, really great workouts, or you work out for 2 weeks really, really well because you have a lot of motivation. And then on the 3rd week, you don't keep going. See, that's the problem with consistency. We may be intentional about what we want to do. We may be intentional about setting ourselves up for success, but then we don't follow through with it. And so more so than motivation, relying on motivation, the key is to really hone in on determination. So determination is way more important than motivation in this sense. Now, maybe you're being intentional, and maybe you've made a serious commitment about being consistent, but you can't follow through, and it's very difficult. And this is where that third piece comes in, where I said the reason why this problem is an issue. This problem is an issue. That sounds redundant. The reason why this is a problem, the reason why a lot of nurses are unhealthy is because we do not seek help. That was the third thing that I said. We're not being intentional, we are not being consistent, and we are not seeking help. We don't seek help. We don't seek accountability. Here's another person that I'm going to confide in and say, these are the decisions I want to make. I'm going to find someone who has the same values and same intentions, and we are going to keep each other accountable and meet on a consistent basis. The more people that you rely on, the more you stay faithful to your goal, because it's like being part of a tribe that doesn't break. The more that you are part of a culture, and the great thing too is that you can find accountability with people who are already doing the thing or the habit that you want to have. So for example, if you make new friends or you start hanging out with people who are, already naturally eat well, when you start hanging out with them and when you start, going over to their house or they start hanging out with you, you start to just naturally eat better, and it's much more easy to transition in that way. The same thing if you hang out with people who are gym junkies, basically. I'm not saying that you have to be like a gym rat, like always going to the gym, although some people love it. You might actually love it a lot more than you realize when you start hanging out with people who make going to the gym fun. If you have friends that are constantly going to the gym, or if you have you meet, let's say you start working at a unit and you notice that there's like these 3 nurses that are really, really fit and stuff, maybe befriend them. Maybe ask them, hey, what do you do on your in your time off? Can I join? I really want to be able to live my life fully. I want to be able to get healthier. I want to have a healthier mindset. And I'm talking right now physical health. I know I'm giving a lot of examples that have to do with physical health, right? Going to the gym, eating healthy, etc. But this also has to do with mindset wellness, right? Your mental health. If you are around people who are negative, you are automatically going to have an outlook, or you're going to automatically put on the glasses where you see life through the lens of negativity because you're around those people. Earlier, when I talked about the statistics, stress was involved. And when you talk about stress and how you respond to stress, you want to be around people that will help you deal with that stress in a healthy way. You want to seek help and accountability with people who have a healthy coping mechanisms with whenever they deal with stress. There is a lot of pressure when it comes to being a healthcare worker. You want to live a life that is, good and that is healthy. And I know that there's a lot of pressure there, but if you hang out with people, if you do it alone, you're not going to get it done. It's going to be extremely difficult to create good habits that you don't already have, because habits are difficult to build. But when you make it easy on yourself to build relationships with people who are already doing that, when you join a tribe that is already, kicking butt, then you begin to kick butt, and it's much easier for you to transition into that lifestyle than if you're just trying to do it by yourself. So accountability is crucial when trying to build a lifestyle that emulates health and wellness, a lifestyle that promotes that kind of thing. And now you'll be able to talk to your patients because you can say, look, I've been through that transition over going into a healthy life. I know what it's like to deal with the struggles. Here's how I did it. When you speak out of experience, it is incredibly powerful. Now, given the tough schedule and the stressful jobs that we have a lot of times as nurses, I want to talk about practical ways that we can improve our health, because I understand that there are external factors. I don't want to ignore those again. I don't want to minimize the fact that there are outside things that influence our health. Our jobs are hard. There are things that are out of our control when it comes to, how stressful our job can be, and sometimes the really tough scheduling for some of us when we work in nursing. And those things have an effect on our health, no doubt. And I would say that for many, many of us, it is more difficult to lead a healthy lifestyle as a healthcare worker than it is in other industries. But here's the point. It's not impossible. It is not impossible. There are practical ways. We don't have to spend, 2 hours in the gym every single day in order to be healthy. There are practical small things that we can do as nurses to make sure that our lives are taking us down the path of healthy living. There are ways. Nurses, we need to take charge, be intentional, and be consistent, and seek out for help when we need it in order for our lives to be full. And it's that important. It is better for the patient at the end of the day. A healthy nurse brings more to the table for their patient and their families than a nurse who is constantly making poor lifestyle choices. So that's why this is so important. The big question here is, how can we help fix the problem? How can we help fix the problem? And I'm going to answer that with 2 words. Atomic changes. Atomic changes. And what does that mean? Small, tiny changes in the right direction. Don't get overwhelmed with these massive things that, New Year's resolution, all this stuff. Don't get overwhelmed with all the massive things that you need to do, to be the healthiest person on earth. The point is to be the healthiest person that you can be. Stop comparing yourself to everybody else and look at your life and say, what choices can I make and how can I adapt new good habits, small things, practical modifications about what I'm already doing to make it healthier, making attainable goals. That is what I mean by making atomic changes in your life for a healthier lifestyle. We already know as nurses what to do in our brains, right? We studied it. Same thing with dietitians, with doctors, with PT, all these healthcare people. We know what to do, right? I mean, I hope we know what to do. I mean, some people honestly don't know what to do. That's the other thing I don't have time to talk about, but a lot of us actually don't. A lot of us, buy into these get healthy quick schemes that are not helping nobody. But I would hope that most of us know the basic fundamentals of a healthy lifestyle. But unfortunately, sometimes you can't assume that. If you want more information on those things, I would highly recommend two websites, newstart.com and creationlife.com. They are amazing programs that talk about the fundamentals of better living. I'm a huge fan of those two. They're both acronyms. We nurses love acronyms, especially nursing school. It helps pass a lot of exams. But they're both acronyms that have to do with the building blocks for a healthy lifestyle. So New Start is an acronym. They have something for N, for E, for W, and so forth. And then Creation Life is as well. The word creation is an acronym. I think the key is to make attainable goals, modify what you're already doing, the habits. You kind of want to build on the habits that you already have. And you want to find accountability to review the progress that you've been making, and you don't want to trust yourself. That's why you want to kind of automate. And so those are things that you can do to help you make better choices for your life, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you're eating right, making sure you're taking care of your mind, making sure you're taking care of your body, your physical health. Those things are going to help you be a better nurse. The point of this podcast is that we need to care about what kind of life we lead. We have to care about it. If we're going to be out there taking care of others and we're going to be suggesting things and educating people on things, we have to go through it ourselves. Real nurses practice what they preach. Do it for yourself. Do it for your patients and do it for your profession in that order so that you can live that next level life. You will be a better nurse for it. You will be a better person for it. Make the choice today to lead a lifestyle that you are proud of, to lead a lifestyle that is exemplary about what you do for a living. Live life fully, that it will inspire others to make healthy choices for themselves. That is what it means to be a real nurse. Hey, I just want to thank you for listening. It means the world to me, especially because at the time of this recording, I'm still only a couple months from starting this whole thing. So if you're interested in helping me build this brand even more, please share this podcast on your social media and grab some merch from the website at niceveinsbro.com. Got some great stuff there for sale. Send me a DM on Instagram and share some encouragement, some love, and some hate. I will welcome that too. But don't be shy. Talk to you soon. I want to make a book recommendation. It is an amazing book. I read this a while back. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, an easy and proven way to build good habits and breaking bad ones. And so it is extremely good. I mean, you will be highlighting stuff like nobody's business. I want to read a quote here for you, one of the amazing quotes in this book, and it's riddled with them. I literally have markings on so many quotes in this book, but this is one of them. It says, It doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path toward success. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. That is so powerful. And then one more, I want to share another quote here. It says, "The problem is not slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you can't do something perfectly, then you shouldn't do it at all. Lost days hurt you more than successful days help you." He continues saying, "This is why the bad workouts are often the most important ones. Simply doing something, 10 squats, 5 sprints, a push-up, anything really is huge. Don't put up a 0. That to me is just, it's really life-changing. So this book, it might just change your life. Don't put up a 0. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the healthiest person out there, but don't put up a 0. Every day is an opportunity for you to make a right choice. The next time you take care of a patient, think about how you can inspire them to make an atomic change, a small change in their life. Speak from experience. Speak from experience because it is much more powerful than speaking from knowledge, from what you gained in nursing school. If you go through that, if you have taken those steps in your own personal life, you will be able to inspire because of the lifestyle that you give. We're not perfect. I'm not living a perfect life. You're not living a perfect life. We're not going to make the healthiest decision on everything that we do all the time, 100% of the time, for everything that we do. It's not the reality. But we can look at our life and we say, what kind of lifestyle am I leading? What are my daily habits? And are they taking me down the path of health and wellness? Am I inspiring others with my life to live healthily, to live fully and vibrantly? Real nurses practice what they preach. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It is the 6th episode of all time. Still pretty new. It's the 4th one in this particular series about how to be a real nurse. I encourage you to check the other ones out. The 5 things on my list of values and characteristics that really embody what it means to be a nurse is respecting the profession, put in the work, stay humble, practice what you preach, which is this particular episode, and then love life and love people. If you really enjoyed this podcast and found any benefit in it, I encourage you to share it with somebody else, post it on your social media, send me a DM or something with what you loved about it, or comment below if you are watching on YouTube. I want to finish this podcast again with 2 questions. What kind of nurse do you want to be? And what kind of person do you want to be? Thank you again for listening, y que Dios me lo bendiga. When I would listen to podcasts before I became a podcaster myself, I didn't realize how much leaving a 5-star review helped. And so now on this side, I just want you to know that it really does mean a whole lot when people review and share the content. So if you enjoyed it, please share it with somebody and leave a 5-star review on whichever platform you use, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And if you're interested, you can also find us on social media at Nice Veins Bro, or shop online at niceveinsbro.com. My personal stuff you can find under Nene Pablo, which is spelled NENEPABLO. I spend most of my time on YouTube making vlogs and videos, and on Instagram. So I would love to connect with you. And remember, be a positive force and influence within healthcare and society. It's all about God, wellness, and purpose here. Thank you for listening.